I thought the film it moved along pretty well. Not a lot happened, but I thought some of the speeches were fun. They're real chewy, real meaty. It's like a meat pie of a movie in terms of like
It
just
ha-
getting
This
into
is
it. Like,
a lot.
yeah.
besides the names of some of the characters and the name of the story, it has nothing to do with the
Almost
actual.
nothing. It's expanded out. It's actually this
Well, it's
second story
adapted from
stuck into it, right?
three different short stories mashed
Yeah,
together. Two Poe and another one.
right.
Well, I
There's
read
there's a dude.
Mask of the Red Death, and it's like 2.5 pages.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I remember this.
No wonder they were having such a hard time adapting it for the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they
Oh, I
basically
think you could do I think you could do a really good version of the actual story. Like the story, Poe is such a good writer that
Mhm.
like you get there is this overwhelming dread that creeps through this entire story. And like my friend's a Twitch streamer, and one of the things she does is on Halloween she'll read um scary stories, but she does public domain ones, so she doesn't get the hammer from Twitch. And she did the Mask of the Red Death a couple of years ago, and like well read by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
It's very, very affecting.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's a really terrifying story.
Hey,
Also,
nobody sets a mood like Poe,
Really
man. It's
do
like
dialogue, but he's really good at atmosphere and setting the
yeah.
scene.
right.
I mean, yeah, I remember reading Telltale Heart when I was in fourth grade, and it was terrifying. And that's not that long.
No.
It's
Yeah.
just, and it's real subtle. It's just about trying to. It takes a full page to open up a lamp.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like really well done.
Yeah,
Because
that's one of those stories that you read it when you're a kid and you never forget it.
Yes, exactly right.
Cask of Amontillado,
Yeah,
the
Sure,
Pit
I
and the
remember that.
Pendulum,
yeah.
Murders at the Rue Morgue.
They made you memorize Raven, so there's that.
I have the
You're,
Raven.
you're dropping out. You're dropping out really bad, Jim. But when anybody else talks, we can't hear you. So
Oh,
choose your moments carefully. But did you say there's a pendulum in it? Because there is a pendulum in this.
there is a pendulum, and it was probably the
The same prop.
the
Yeah.
prop.
Yeah.
Yeah, here you could see it was a miniature.
Yeah.
Also, I want to give it up to Jane Asher. She is just gorgeous, and yes, the camera loves her, and she does her okay acting wise. I think at the time she was Paul McCartney's mistress.
Around that time.
Yeah,
Not
I
mistress,
I
girlfriend.
thought she was pretty
Girlfriend.
bad, honestly, Scott. I thought she was really inert. It's not entirely her fault because she doesn't have much to do except look shocked, scream, and occasionally whimper.
She
And
doesn't
have,
even
and
scream
have
very
red
much.
hair.
And have red hair. I mean,
Well-
her character didn't have any real like. She didn't come from anywhere. It was like, oh, she's kind of on board with what's happening, but she's kind of shocked and doesn't want to go along with
She's
it.
just an audience surrogate. That's all she
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
She's
they
the
gave
program.
they gave like the moral fiber and the point of view to her boyfriend,
Yeah.
Gino,
Yeah.
the David Weston character. So to me, he was the best character. And when the whole beginning of the movie, I was just like, oh, this is goofy and funny and campy. And then David Weston gets in the sword fight. They've got them prisoner in the dungeon, and he gets in the sword fight with one of the guards. And all of a sudden, I was interested in the story, and it kind of caught me from there to the end. I was on board with the whole thing because Weston was the one who was like he was the opposing force against the Prospero, against the Vincent Price character.
And then he disappears for the last 20 minutes of the movie. He's just gone.
Yes. Yeah, but all that stuff where he's playing with them and he makes them, cut themselves with one of these daggers is poisoned. All that stuff's great. That's really fun. That's the best part of the movie.
That was my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
good.
I do want to point out that I said that this movie was underrated. I didn't say it was good.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This is a bad movie that thinks it's a good movie.
Yes.
Yeah, among
Yes.
this
Yes.
cycle, the Poe Price Corman American International cycle, this is probably one of the best ones because the
And it
Raven's
looks
terrible.
pretty good.
The Raven is a squeaky little comedy. It's just awful. You know?
The colors are really cool.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's
the
Pat-
visuals.
I wish
color
there
all
was
the way.
I wish there was more of that and that.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
literally like those are some of the best scenes in the movie are the scenes in the colored rooms.
Yeah,
and
that was
then-
really something, huh?
and then the scene when they're outside.
yeah, well,
like-
then
Yeah.
color coded specters of death here. That was probably
Yeah.
yeah, but
And I'm like looking for
That is straight from the story.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
well,
So
no,
each one
that-
each one represents like like a different pestilence, right? Like
Yeah,
a different.
kind of like, yeah.
One
There's
of
also
them's,
that thing
one of
with
them's
Patrick,
cholera.
yeah, Patrick McNee dressing up as a monkey and like trying to like, get all wild, and then he gets
That's
burned. That was nuts. I remember that
that
scared me
is a
as a kid.
scene.
That was
That
a
is a
scene.
scene.
Uh-huh.
Anybody who's saying that there's nothing happening in this movie,
Yeah.
it's like, what movie did you
No,
watch?
very little,
Hold
very
on.
little, not nothing, very little.
It's basically okay. So this is an hour and 28 minutes. It's like an hour and 5 minutes of Vincent Price is the worst person in the world, and then he gets his comeuppance.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's a
But I think it was a good
he's a shitty
move.
Satanist too.
I think it was actually a good move, and that's what pleased Corman about this final draft of the script that he finally did decide to shoot, was that Beaumont, he's a horror writer, and he was one of the writers on this thing. He decided to make the Prospero character a Satanist, and that to me unlocked the thing, because then you get those scenes of Price explaining why he was doing the stuff, and these are experiments in evil, and that was interesting to me, and it gave the whole thing sort of like stakes, and it gave like, is Jane Asher going to go along with him, because he really does have a plan, you know what I mean?
Let me touch on that for a second. You talked about Jane Asher not being a more compelling character. Because I think that she's kind of like a go along, get along here. She's trapped there because of her looks, and she has to kind of go along with the program regardless of what's happening. She doesn't like it, and that makes her sort of passive.
Well, and as she goes, but I will say, as she goes through the movie, and I think this is good, is she becomes this foil for him.
Right.
Like the part at the end where he asks the Red Death to spare her, and is like, she's the only person I've ever met who has as much faith as I do. Like, like it you do get this sense from her through the course of it that she is resisting him. He is not able to corrupt her. And when he realizes that he's going to die, he's like, well, let's spare her.
He's horrible, but he plays fair.
Right.
Yeah. I think he says that at one point.
Really?
It's like a line, just like he's flowery, but I think he says something like that.
Basically that's the gist of it.
I mean, if you believe in the biblical Satan plays fair. Like
exactly.
Satan is the opposer, the questioner, which is literally what the name means. But the whole point is, like, he wants people to come around to his side on their own. Like, he doesn't want to trick, even though they always talk about, oh, the devil's a trickster. The devil doesn't want to trick you. The devil wants you to make a choice to do evil because he wants loyal subjects. The same way God does. Like
yeah, if you like. Anyway, again, its film was very handsomely mounted. It was kind of cheapy. I said there's a couple places where you can see
it's very cheap.
The stone wall kind of flexing here and there.
They reused the castle sets from Beckett, I guess, which had just wrapped a few months earlier.
I wrote down walls move in fight scene multiple times.
Yes. Also, the thing is about the fact that Prospero is a Satanist. Like, oh, hail the Lord of the Flies, Satan, my God. And like, he's going like that. And I'm thinking this film was made for like kids in drive-in movies in 1964, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, back then, it's like, oh, whatever. It's like, no one's going to object to this.
Anton LaVey and his Church of Satan were around during.
They were doing their thing back then. But I guess people,
yes, he was inventing a more annoying way to be a libertarian.
I think either there was less pearl clutching, or there was just everyone just kind of didn't care.
I think everyone just didn't care.
They just didn't care.
Yeah,
it wasn't taken seriously enough for anybody to be like
moral objective.
So I'm watching this thing. I hadn't seen it. I mean, I remembered maybe like 5 seconds of this movie because I think I saw it at the 3:30 movie when I was a kid, right? But I'm like watching this going, okay, like you guys all know, like Corman dies. I'm like, all right, we're going to do Corman. It's going to be Roger Corman week because of that. And I'm watching this, watching Corman, the director, before Corman, the director, figured out that there was more money to be made just being the producer. And I'm looking for what was his thing? Like, what is the thing that I can see evidenced here that carried through?
Terrible fake blood.
Well, yes, but
that was of its time.
The only thing I could think of is because the direction doesn't really draw a lot of attention to itself. But what was really clear almost immediately is he really knew how to get a lot out of a little in terms of shitty sets, not great actors. Like he is maximizing what he has, and that was the
Again,
that ran with him through his entire producing career.
That's his. You could say
There
that
was
about his
one-
entire career.
$5,
There was
and
one-
you're going to make that look like $10.
Right.
there was one really good joke when Roger Corman died, and that is Roger Corman's funeral is going to come in on time, under budget, and with
Yeah.
enough additional footage to make 3 more funerals.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
Oh, you can see his economy and the way this is put together. There's a lots of crowd
So-
scenes in the middle of the film
Yeah.
where he's simply just moving. The camera moves are all lateral, back and forth. Not a lot of cross cutting, not a lot of close ups. He's doing it like, okay, we got it next. We got it next. You can
Yes.
feel the efficiency behind what's going on.
the Jonathan Frakes school of directing.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
2 takes and we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
He says he said in the Wikipedia article that the big party at the end, the masked ball, is his
Right.
regret that didn't go as well as he wanted to.
Uh-huh.
I guess because the English crews just didn't work fast enough for him.
Yeah,
So
he,
I don't
yeah,
think
he
he
was
got-
infuriated. He was infuriated by tea breaks.
He
It's like,
didn't
what?
get he didn't get the coverage he wanted or something. So he's
Because he's used to working with, Steven Spielberg's non-union Mexican equivalent.
Pretty
Like,
much a whole room full of them that we kept hiring his entire career.
Having said that, like I thought that the with what he had to work with, I thought that it looked good, like that. It's a super wide screen. The
Oh, it's-
colors
yeah.
really popped.
the colors pop, man.
Gorgeous scope, man.
except when they don't. There are these weird moments of like, this red just disappears. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like this red pops, this
Right.
teal pops,
Mhm.
but this is just
Yeah.
gone.
The
Like, I
opening
don't-
part, also the opening 10 minutes where they're in the village was really dark. And you can
Really
just-
dark.
That's because
Yeah.
the set was so tiny.
I guess they had to work the edges on that.
I'm
moment.
watching this on a MacBook Pro with a really high res screen,
Yeah, the good
and
screen.
that's the only way you can actually see what's going on.
Right.
Like,
By the way, those-
right, but,
The entire castle furnished with those 1970s green candles, man.
well, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
the candle
my
color.
grandmother was still using these candles when I was a kid.
Oh, I know, pretty much. It probably had plenty left
He
over.
bought a gross.
The one thing I learned from looking at,
Although the one in front of Chris is lavender.
yeah, that's
Ah.
right.
But
Yeah, they were like brightly colored candles. And the whole thing, I think they meant something. It's like
Oh, there's
Satanist
blue.
kind of
There's
thing.
blue. There's blue behind you.
Well,
I
there's
just
blue
noticed.
ones on. Yeah. But there was a lot of green.
there,
candles.
No,
there
it's
was
fun.
somebody who had a point of view on the color that should be pushed hard in this movie, and that was kind of cool to watch.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about before this episode when we were talking about Corman. It's like, of course, I mean, he gave so many people a chance, gave so many actors, directors their start. Nicholas Roeg is the director of photography on this thing.
I know. It's pretty
This
amazing.
is like one of the first color films he ever DP'd on. And
Well,
to me,
this is
like
probably
that's-
more. Go ahead.
that stuff behind you, Scott, looks great. The outdoor stuff looks great. The castle to me was way overlit, and it made it look cheap.
Yeah.
Really cheap.
It's hard to get that right, you know.
If
But
you
also-
get, if you make a castle should be dark, and if he had
This
left
is
the
before
holes-
Dank. This is before Dank Castles. Like I
Yeah.
feel like Dank Castles
Yeah.
is like a
This is
'70s
like-
thing.
We
Technicolor
watched-
castle.
We watched
Like-
Eyes Without a Face on this show, which was shot in 1960.
Uh-huh.
Granted, it's black and white, but that movie atmospherically
That's a Dank Castle.
circles around this movie.
Oh, yeah, I
Big
know.
time, big
Well,
time.
this
But
is-
here's the thing. I think maybe the lighting is not entirely Rogue's fault. I think you light the entire set, then you can work really fast.
Yeah,
you don't
that's
have to
exactly
keep
right. And
Right.
with this
You don't have to
color
keep
thing, too,
resetting
we-
lights.
No
Put
dark
lights
corners.
around.
Go.
everything's lit. You just
Yeah.
put the camera where you want and
it's like,
go.
it's like shooting a soap opera. You actually
Yeah.
see
But then it
light
ends up
everything.
looking like the Batman TV show.
Yeah.
Also, also, this is Corman probably saying, you know, we're making this thing in widescreen. I want as much color as possible because it has to play at drive-ins.
Right.
You know, you
Right.
have to saturate it, and they did. They saturated the hell out of it. That's why
Good
you
point.
remembered those colored rooms. You remembered that the first time you
Yeah.
saw it to now, right?
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man.
The only thing,
Well-
Vincent Price. So, like I said, this is maybe the first movie I've ever seen where maybe he was actually trying to act. Like I looked him up. Like the dude had like a trained background, and I think he probably thought of him more of himself than a guy that ended up like wearing a skull mask in 2 Dr. Phibes movies. But
Someone got picked.
I mean, this is some seriously snidely whiplash level acting,
Uh-huh.
and he is chewing up the scenery hard every fucking time he's on screen.
Right.
And
He's chewing the scenery so much he's 80% wood.
Yeah, pretty
Like-
much.
I'm like I don't know what the difference is between Vincent Price trying to act and when I finally caught up with them in the 70s, like just camping it up
I don't. But
It's
that's
hard.
that's the thing.
I think you might have to go back and look at what he did before he started specializing in horror movies and see him in his early part of his career.
What would that? What
Well,
would
the
that?
war and things like that. Yeah. Mhm.
As I said, I think we have to have a national conversation about Vincent Price not being a particularly good actor. What Vincent Price was a really good voice.
Yeah.
Like if you go find some of those performances he did of Poe. Like
Right.
there are performances of him reading Poe stuff. I remember there was an NPR show where they used to do like audio performances of plays or books or
Oh, yeah.
poetry or whatever. And they did a Poe day on like what would have been Poe's like 200th birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had Vincent Price, an old clip of Price doing The Raven. And like
Oh man,
it's amazing.
I'm sure that's great.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because he really can do that sort of like voice actor stuff. Like
Mhm.
the problem is when you put him on screen, he just turns into this guy.
He's always Vincent Price.
Eyebrows, man. The eyebrows
Yeah.
are constantly the eye and the eye. It's not the eyebrows; it's the eye narrowing thing that he keeps doing.
Yeah. The one thing about this, I was doing research on American International Pictures, and they came upon this formula about making these films that if you understand this, these guys invented a formula that in 2024 still dominates everything. I'll read it out to you because it's so interesting. This is called the Peter Pan syndrome. A younger child will watch anything an older child will watch. B, an older child will not watch anything a younger child will watch. C, a girl will watch anything a boy will watch. D, a boy will not watch anything a girl will watch. Therefore, to catch your greatest audience, to use zero in a 19-year-old male. And that's it. That's it. He narrowed it down to a demographic. This is 1960.
I don't feel like there's enough boobs in this for that.
Hold that thought for the next
that
movie.
came later.
Right.
Who wrote this?
I said that for a reason.
That was Samuel Z. Arkoff, one of the American.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, you think about the Marvel movies, it dominates everything. You know, like it's how they still make movies.
Yeah.
Dune and Dune 2 are 19-year-old boy movies. Come on, you know, it's like there's no way around it. Anyway, this was.
I don't know. I don't think I would have had the patience for those when I was 19, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Well,
I would have watched it for the spaceships.
Anybody remember when Tim Burton put Vincent Price as the
Sure.
inventor in Edward Scissorhands?
Sure.
Mhm.
Like that was kind of cool because like by that point, like he had a body of work that he could kind of stand on at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what most people my age remember Vincent Price for?
Was
Thriller.
Yeah.
Was it?
Burton also made
Thriller.
a short movie called Vincent that was animated that just uses
Does
Yeah.
tribute to him, kind of. Yeah.
voice.
Anyway,
No, I mean, and those Dr. Fives movies are goofy as fuck. I mean, but this is like I said, this is a bad movie that thinks it's a good movie.
hey,
Well said.
this is a movie that
Unlike
makes.
the other movie we're gonna watch, which knows it's.
Now, this is a movie
This-
that makes
I
you have
will
the backseat
say-
of a car with Mary Lou back in 1964. This is
I
perfect.
will
Yeah.
I will say that I thought the movies last week were bad. I think the movies this week are bad. The difference is these movies are fun.
And they know they're
Like,
kind of like.
well, this one doesn't know it's bad. It's still fun. Like
Hey, fun is important. Fun is
Right.
important, right?
This
there's
movie's-
two
Sure, this movie's fun.
there's
Right.
two kinds of dumb. There's good dumb and there's bad dumb, and I think this is good dumb.
Yeah.
Like
I'm with you on that one.
All right. Well, let's go with the
Do we
cards.
have a Jim's corner?
Jim's
Wait, Jim,
Jim's
you have a
corner.
corner?
Jim's corner.
Yeah, I think two things. I think that Corman was always sincere. It's like he knew he wasn't the best filmmaker in the world, but
He's a more talented Tommy Wiseau.
yeah. And then the other thing is, I think his greatest legacy and his greatest strength was being able to get directors to like work for him that were talented and basically give them a chance, and that way he could get decent direction for like really cheap.
And make a metric
Long
fuck,
list,
and,
man.
and make a
had
metric
really
fuck
good
ton of
instinct.
money as a producer.
He was the opposite of a gatekeeping producer. He was the one who kept the gates open. Let
Yeah.
anybody who wanted to work as long as they did good work and they'd work for
I'm
nothing.
gonna give you $5 to make a $10 movie, and
Exactly.
if you do a good job, you'll never have to work for
That's
me
pretty
again.
much it. All right, now we're going to the cards.
Come on.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah.
Bad movie, thumbs up.
Yeah,
Bad movie,
exactly.
thumbs
Yeah. It's like you should be see-through, like bad movies. So there's no
Well,
substance.
no, I as I've always said, there's two axes.
That's
There's,
right.
is this good or bad, and did I enjoy it or not?
There you go.
Like
Okay.
this one is down here.
Bad,
Okay.
and I
And-
still enjoyed it.
There it is. All right.